Greetings friends, as always, it's a high honor to welcome you back to Rick's Garage. Today I have a 2012 Ford F150 in the yard. It comes in needing front hubs, both of them. The bearings are bad on both hubs. Now this is only a two-wheel drive vehicle, so consequently, even though the repair will be a little bit easier because we don't have to contend with front axles, the hubs, for reasons I don't quite understand, are almost double the price of the four-wheel drive hubs. I think that's because there's much fewer two-wheel drive trucks than there are four-wheel drive trucks. That's probably why they're more expensive. The truck belongs to a relative of mine. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I only work on friends and family vehicles these days. It's a beautiful early September day here in northeastern United States. Although there is a little wind going on, so I apologize, you may be picking up some wind noise. Matter of fact, I'm sure you're picking up wind noise. So as you can see, friends, this wheel is loose and it's making quite a racket when you try to turn it. So we're pretty confident it is indeed bad wheel bearings. It's the same on the other side. Now before we begin, I'm going to have a safety moment. I've got the vehicle supported by both the jack and the jack stands. And in the back, I've got the rear wheel chalked both in front of the wheel and in back of the wheel. And as always, I have a pair of safety glasses available to me. I'll be putting them on from time to time. Now the first thing I did, friends, is I disconnected the negative battery terminal. And I put a cover on the terminal to keep it from coming back in contact. You can see it keeps wanting to come in back in contact with the terminal. These covers come with a new battery whenever you buy one, and I always save them for this purpose. The reason I'm disconnecting the battery terminal, it's a good idea to do this for any job, but especially this job. We're going to be wailing away at these hubs. We're going to be shaking this whole truck. And even though it's highly unlikely, I don't want to take any chance whatsoever that we deploy these airbags. So with the battery disconnected, this can't happen. Friends, what you see before you are some tools that you strongly need to consider purchasing if you don't already own. This is a hub buster type tool. It's not a hub buster, that's a brand name. I purchased on Amazon. It was next day delivered for about 50 bucks. It's well worth buying. And when you consider how much money you're saving by doing the job yourself, it's really essential. And if you got Amazon Prime, you can have it delivered the next day. You'll need a chisel. Once you get the thing separated a little bit, you can drive the chisel in with a big old hammer and help push it the rest of the way out. You're going to need a huge sledgehammer. You're really going to be wailing on this thing. That's not the side I was hitting. This is the side. You can see all the marks on it. You should go down to your local hardware store and pick up some 14mm coarse grade 8 flange nuts. And I've got these stick washers that I've had for quite some time. I use those as well. You need grade 8 and they need to be tight. So first of all, we're going to get the ABS wire out of the way. So we're going to undo this little bracket here. This is an 8mm. I'm spraying a little bit of Croil on there. I like to use Croil. And we're going to move this a little bit and see how well it comes out. If it acts like it's going to snap, we're not going to force it. We're going to work it back and forth. Seems to be coming out very nicely, so we don't have to worry about that. I'll shoot that out with my electric ratchet now. Like I said, if this acts like it's going to snap or binds, just work it back and forth with the penetrating oil. So now we're going to trace this wire up to where it connects. Okay, we're going to disconnect it from this little clip here. All right. Now we've got a push type connector, and I've got a panel removal tool that I'm just going to pry that out with very easily. Then following it up, we've got another one right here. That's out. And following it the rest of the way up, it's right here connected to the inner fender. Let's see if we can push that out. almost. Oh, there we go. Okay, now that's free. Okay friends, to unplug the ABS wire, you see there's a little green tab here. What you want to do is push straight up with a screwdriver on this tab. See how it clicked up? I broke my thumbnail trying to do that on the other side, so I use a screwdriver. And then very simply, once you get that pushed up, stick a screwdriver in there and it comes right out. Okay? So now we're going to remove this little bracket that holds the brake hose. We're going to need to tie this caliper up high so it's out of the way, and this bracket is preventing us from doing that. This is 10 millimeter. I'm going to give it a little shot of penetrating oil. And like with the other one we just did, we're not going to force this. We don't want to snap this thing. So we're going to see how this goes. It seems like it's loosening up very nicely. Alright, I'm going to use my battery ratchet to get it out the rest of the way. Pretty long bolt, so it's a good thing I did use my battery ratchet. Okay, so now that that's free, will allow us to tie off the caliper up high. Okay friends, now we're going to attempt to remove the caliper. For that you'll need a 13 millimeter socket. Alright, that loosened up nicely. We'll get the other one. And probably turn them out with my fingers now. Now we'll take a big old screwdriver and just pry this thing up. Should come up quite easily. There we go. And let's get this wire out of the way. And I'm going to go get something to tie this way up high so it'll be out of the way. We can now do that because we got this bracket undone. Alright, so we got two pretty strong cords holding this in place. Hopefully it'll stay there when we're wheeling on our hub. Now I'm going to attempt to remove the caliper bracket, or some people call them the carrier bracket. I got two 21 millimeter bolts to undo. The camera's exactly in my way, so I'm going to loosen them up off camera, and I'll come back when I get them loose enough to use my battery ratchet. Okay friends, now I can zap these out. Yeah, that was easy enough. And we got that out. Okay, let's see how much trouble this rotor is going to give us. Oh, don't feel too bad at all. Now, it came right off easily. If you had trouble with that, Ford has provided us, I believe these are 8 millimeter screws that you can screw in there and force the rotor out. But this came out very nicely. What I'm going to do right now, I'm going to try to remove this dust shield. As with the other bolts I undid, I'm not going to force them. If they look like they're going to snap, I'm going to leave them alone or just work them back and forth. So we'll put a little coil on them. So let's see how this works out. Moving. It looks like that's coming right out of there. Okay, good. Okay, we got the dust shield out of the way. Very good. So next we've got to undo these 4 bolts that are holding the hub in place. They're 18 millimeter. So we're going to load it up with the coil. Now all I say these days is I like to use Kroil. I used to say I thought Kroil was the best stuff on the market. However, I got a lot of haters writing me saying that they don't like Kroil and that there are other stuff that's better. But for my money, I'll say it, I guess, that I think it's the best. I've been using it since the 1970s. Like I say, me just saying that, I'm sure I'm going to get a bunch of haters writing me in the comment section. Now I'm going to get my my air impact gun. I'm going to blast these out of there. To do that, I'm going to turn the wheel all the way this way and get these two, and then I'm going to turn the wheel all the way the other way and get the other two. While we're waiting for the pressure to build up in my air compressor, I just want to have another quick safety moment where I'm going to be using an impact tool. I'm putting my safety glasses on. And the other thing I want to caution you about, I'm going to be using a swivel, an impact swivel. And the tendency is when you're using these things to trigger it just to see which way it's turning. And the problem is, if you do that, this socket's going to come flying off there. It could hit you right in the beak, or worse. So I'm putting this thing in reverse, and I'm going to attach it to the bolt. As soon as the pressure builds up, we're going to blast this thing out of here. Hopefully you can see. I'm not blocking your vision too badly. That ought to be good enough. Let's see what happens here. Very good. Alright, I'm going to get the other one down low. I don't think you can see it. That came out very easily too. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the knuckle the other way, and I'll get the other two off camera. I'll come back when that's done. Okay, I got all my tools out of the way, and we're going to load this hub up with my Kroil. I'm going to put it all around. I got a little pad on the floor to catch the oil that's dripping. And also, I'm going to spray it around in the inside. So we're ready to install this hub buster. I call it a hub buster, it's really not, it's a facsimile. And we're going to put these big thick washers on. Now I've got these 14mm flange nuts. It's 14mm by 2.0 if you want to buy them at the hardware store. They're grade 8, so they're hardened. Okay friends, we're ready to give this a try. What we're hoping to do is create a little bit of a gap so we can wedge a chisel in there. So let's see what happens. Nothing yet. I'll probably speed this up because I'm going to hit this thing probably about 20 times. Alright friends, I got a pretty good gap there now. I'm going to try to drive a chisel in there and see if I can pry it out. I'm going to use my air chisel, but you can use a hand chisel, just be a little more elbow grease. So I'm going to stick this in here. See if we can drive this out a little bit. Alright, I think a good one more whack might do it. I'm going to put a blanket down here to soften it when it hits, so I don't want it denting up my asphalt. out of there. Finally. Okay friends, I've had enough for today. I'm pretty well exhausted. We got it out, but you can see the kind of trouble I had. There's no way, unless you've got one of these hub buster type tools and a sledgehammer, that you're going to get this thing out. So we'll come back tomorrow when we're ready to go to work on this again. Okay friends, it's the next afternoon. I'm feeling a little better. I was pretty well wiped out trying to knock that hub out of there. The hard part is done now. The rest of this is going to be quick and easy. So what I need to do right now is clean all this rust out of this area where we're going to press the new hub into. So what I'm going to use is a drum sander attached to my drill. So let's get started. The whole idea in using this is you don't want to let it linger anywhere. You want to keep it moving. It's doing a nice job of cleaning that rust out of there. Just do a little bit more and we'll call that good enough. Alright, that feels good. I don't feel anything in there. So now I'm going to take my angle sander with a sanding pad, not a grinding pad, and we're going to clean up this surface here. Okay, that's nice and smooth. Okay, lastly, I'm going to take a wire brush and clean up this 45-degree chamfer you see right here. Alright, that's still a little bit crusty there, but that's that chamfer there just for clearance. Really, it's not something that contacts anything. So that's why I only use the wire brush on it. So I'm just going to hit the wire brush over the whole thing right now. So what I'm going to do right now is just take a little brake cleaner and just kind of spray this around in there, get any loose stuff out of there. Okay, we'll let that dry out. And now I'm going to coat the whole thing with Permatex Anti-Seize. Whenever you do a repair, always do the repair as if you're going to be the next person to work on this vehicle. Okay friends, we've got the new bearing ready to install, or the new hub if you will. Now, as you may recall, the ABS wire was at the top. So that's how we're going to install it. So let's get that out of our way, and we'll grab one of the hub bolts and get it started. It'd be nice if I had an extra hand here, but once I get one started, we got it made. Okay, that one's going in quite nicely. As I said, I've got anti-seize on each one of these. So this, now that we're past this step, we got it all sanded and lubricated. It's going to be very easy the rest of the way. Matter of fact, a lot of YouTubers would abandon you at this point and say, okay, just put it back in reverse order, but I'm going to stay with you to the end on this job. Okay friends, I've got an 18mm socket here, and we're going to start pulling this thing in. We're going to try to do it evenly. It seems to be pulling in quite nicely there. And we're going to go to the other side. Of course the camera is exactly in my way, friends. See, that's pulling in nicely. I'm going to go to one of the bottom ones. Seems to be pulling in very nicely. Alright, so the camera's a little bit in my way, so I'm going to finish snugging this in, and I'll come back when that's done. Okay friends, I turned the wheel all the way to the right so to make it easier to get my torque wrench in there. The torque spec on these is between 111 and 141. I've got my torque wrench set to 135. So I'm going to go ahead and torque these until it clicks. Right there. Now, if you do not have a torque wrench, just put them as tight as you can with a breaker bar. There we go. Now I'm going to turn the wheel to the other way, and then I'm going to check them all one more time. Okay, we're calling that done. That's going nowhere. Okay friends, I'm going to leave this ABS wire dangle for the time being. The reason for that is I don't want to get it tangled up with the brake hose. It goes just to the outside of the brake hose, and so we'll get everything situated and then we'll run this through and connect it all up. So friends, I'm ready to put on this dust shield. Going forward, every single bolt that I put back in this vehicle is going to have a little dab of anti-seize on it. Like I said earlier, do this job as if you're the one that's going to be taking it apart. We were lucky that these did not snap when we undid these. So we're going to make sure that they're all well coated. Going to go ahead and zip these in. Okay friends, I'm getting ready to put the rotor back on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little anti-seize around this mating surface in case we have problems getting the rotor off next time. So I'll grab the rotor. I'm going to wash my hands and grab the rotor and come right back. There we go. Okay. Alright, I'm going to take a couple of thick washers that you saw me use earlier in the video. I'm going to take a couple of lug nuts, and I'm just going to snug this rotor in place so it's not flopping around while I'm trying to install the brakes. We're getting close to the end here. Not going to tighten these, you just want to snug these up so the rotor won't be flopping all over the place. Okay, I'm going to spray this rotor down with brake cleaner, just in case I did contaminate it. Okay, the new bearing feels nice. Okay, I'm ready to install this carrier bracket. I did these brakes about 4 years ago. They're still in great shape. The pads were moving back and forth very nicely. All I did was clean out the old grease just now and put some new brake grease in. So we're ready to install these. Let me get a bolt started. Oh, and also I put a little dab of anti-seize on this bolt as well. Just trying to line this up. I don't have a good angle because the camera's in the way. Alright, that one started. Let's see if we can get the bottom one started. And I've already put a little dab of anti-seize on this one as well. Trying to do my best here to give you a decent view. Okay, that started. So now I'm just going to quickly zap them in with my battery ratchet and then we'll tighten them down. Now I suppose these have some sort of torque, but over the years I just put them as tight as I can. If you look up the torque, you'll probably see that they're just about the same as a lug nut. So put them about as tight as you would a lug nut. Matter of fact, they're 21 millimeter, the same size as the lug nuts. That's going nowhere. That's as tight as I can put them. They're not going anywhere. Okay friends, I just brought the caliper down from where I had it tied off, and I'm putting a little brake grease on the contact surfaces, just a little brake grease on the pistons, and I'm going to put a little brake grease on the back end where the contact points are. Not a lot, not so much that you're going to contaminate everything, but just something to make them run a little quieter. Okay, what I've got to do right now, friends, before we can install this caliper, we have to press these pistons back in just a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Okay, that one went back in quite easily. Now we're going to press this one back in a little bit. It's a dual piston system. I hate those. But we need to get these in a little bit so we can get the pads back on. There we go. Alright, that ought to be enough. That ought to be plenty. We're not replacing the pads, we just want to make a little room to get them back on so we don't have to force them on. Okay friends, I just put on some nitrate gloves because I'm about to handle the pads. This pad goes to the outside, you can tell by the marks that were on it. That one's installed. And this is the pad that goes to the inside, you can tell by the piston marks that are on it. Okay, that's installed. So now we're going to slip the caliper over the pads. Even though we pressed them in, they're still a little bit tight. There we go. Alright, that's good. Now we'll get the bolts and we'll put those on. These are our glide pin bolts. And in keeping with what we've been doing here, I'm going to put a dab of anti-seize on them. We'll get one started. So that one's going. Friends, the camera is exactly in my way here, so I'm going to put the bottom one in off camera and I'll be back. Okay, that one's 13 millimeter. We'll zap those in. Zap this one in. Tighten this one down. About 36 foot-pounds. That's plenty tight enough. Rotor turns nicely. The caliper slides back and forth nicely. So that's done. So now we're going to connect our brake hose to where it that goes right there. Put a little dab of anti-seize on that, and we'll put this in. Okay, we're going to zap this in. And we'll just give it a little tighten here. There's plenty. Okay. So next we're going to connect up our ABS line. Okay. The ABS line connects right there. Hoping you can see all this. And I've got anti-seize on that as well. There we go. That's started. We'll zip that in. Okay. Now this part of the ABS line connects into this little holder here that's on the brake hose. There we go, like that. Okay, so now this piece of ABS line connects into this little hole right here that pushes right in. And then we go up a little further. We're going to put this to the inside of the brake tubing. That's why I wanted to put this in last. Doesn't quite match up with the hole up there, so we're going to take this little connector and slide it up. You know, might have to slide these around a little bit to get them to go where they're supposed to go. There we go. All right, that one's in there. That's good. Okay, I hope you saw where I plugged this connection into. So now we're going to plug this ABS wire back in. Simply slides in like that, and then you press down the locking pin, and there it is. It's not going to come out. And so now we're just going to connect it back into the fender like it was. There we go. And we're all done. So we got it connected here. We've got it connected here. We've got it connected here. And we've got it connected to the brake hose right there. And it's screwed in right here. So for all intents and purposes, friends, this job is done. All that remains is to put the wheel back on. You don't need to see me do that, so I'm going to abandon you right here. So I want to thank you once again for watching Rick's Garage. Let me pull these off. Before I go, I'm going to post 2 videos to your left, of which I hope you find of interest. Feel free to click on one or the other, or both. And to your right, as always, will be a picture of my avatar in the form of my trusty German Shepherd. By all means, feel free to click on that, should you wish to subscribe to my channel. So thanks again, friends, and we hope to see you all very, very soon.